Welcome back to Critical Corner, unfiltered commentary, not your truth, the real truth. And as always, thank you for your support. Hi folks, welcome back. Now, this video is going to be a little bit longer than normal because I think this is a huge issue. Gigantic. I don't know why this doesn't take precedence over the war itself in Ukraine. And it has a little bit in the press room of the White House, but of course they blow it off. From Fox News. Now this is China talking, so take it with a grain of salt. But there's a lot of, you're going to see there's a video here that's going to be very alarming. I believe it's the Undersecretary of State of the United States concerning this topic. And that's what's setting off the alarm bells. China accuses U.S. of biological military activities in Ukraine. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki called the claims of U.S. biolabs in Ukraine preposterous. Now, we all know they all do it. I'm sure Germany does it, France, Great Britain, all the major countries, United States, probably Canada. We know China does. They all do. Probably India, maybe even Pakistan. Let's not kid ourselves. Even though it's against God knows how many treaties, they're going to do it in secret because it's important. Now, what's happened after the last 2 years in the world, and for us here in the United States, one slip, one screw up, one F up by some, I won't say clerk, but I'm not sure what they would call the lab people, the lab technicians, I guess, for lack of a better term, in some facility that makes a mistake, somebody else makes a mistake, and bang, it's over. I've always said, and a lot of people way smarter than I have said, humanity won't be wiped out, but they're going to be greatly reduced, and not by nuclear weapons, and not by climate change either, but by these viruses and these bioweapons that we're developing. We're taking viruses in nature and what they call gain of function, making them more dangerous, be able to spread easier, infect people easier, harder to kill. That's the new weapons. And it's incredibly effing dangerous. And here's the other thing. We'll get to it when we get to Psaki's remarks. Here's the weird part. She's full of crap. What she's saying is technically true, but it's a lie of omission. China is backing Russia's claims about U.S.-controlled biolabs in Ukraine conducting biological military activities. Accusations the White House and Ukraine have both denied. Now, according to a data released by the U.S., it has 26 biolabs and other related facilities in Ukraine over which the U.S. Department of Defense has absolute control. Now, this is from the Chinese foreign minister. Take it with a grain of salt. Without U.S. approval, no information shall be released to the public. And then, of course, he went on to say how the counterpart, Kremlin troops found evidence and this and that. And that's not really what this is a story about, at least for me. China has also struggled to fend off concerns that the COVID-19 pandemic may have originated in a lab in the city of Wuhan. Now, it may have. I mean, we all know it did. You know, it's one of those worst kept secrets in the entire history of the world. According to reports, a large quantity of dangerous viruses were stored in these facilities. This is what the Chinese minister says. This is in Ukraine. Russia has found during its military operations, the U.S. uses these facilities to conduct biomilitary plans. Now, what they're saying is, we're not doing that. We're studying them, and we're studying other viruses that kill humans now, and we're developing vaccines and chemicals to help stop the effects of certain viruses and blah, 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 blah. It's amazing to me. It truly is. We're not really making bioweapons. We're just doing all kinds of regular medical research on these viruses and these other things. It's all okay. Nothing to see here. Well, we all know better. I'm not putting the U.S. down, China, or anybody else. I'm just saying that's what everybody does. And then, of course, he goes on and rags about alleged Ukraine labs are the tip of the iceberg and that the U.S. has hundreds more around the world, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Fort Detrick is the home of the U.S. Military Medical Research and Development Command in Maryland. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki called the claims of a global network of U.S.-run biological weapons preposterous. Now, here's the thing. Did the U.S. fund, in a large part, the Wuhan lab in China? Technically, yes. Technically, no. And that's the problem. Fauci, that slippery weasel, funds were put into, could go to a certain agency. And that agency gave the funds to another agency, who gave to another agency, who gave it to Wuhan. So the United States did not fund it. What a crock of crap. You give your wife $1,000 because you want your neighbor to do something illegal. So your wife gives it to him and says, I didn't give it to him. She gave it. Didn't come from me. Come on, give me a break. Now that Russia's made these false claims and China seems to endorse this propaganda, we should be on the lookout for Russia to possibly use chemical or biological weapons in Ukraine or to create a false flag operation using them. It's a clear pattern. No one should fall for it. That I kind of believe in part. They're going to say it escaped. It was hit by a bomb, or in their haste to retreat the advancing Russian army, some safeguards weren't done and it escaped. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union in the early 90s, the U.S. has led an international effort to secure and dismantle leftover Soviet-era weapons of mass destruction, including in Ukraine. Now here's the thing. If the Soviets in the early 90s had biological weapons in Ukraine, which means they already had them, and they don't need to bring them all back to Russia, just some of the labs to work on. And then it says in 2005, Washington and Kiev agreed to cooperate to prevent the proliferation of technology pathogens and expertise that could be used in the development of biological weapons. Now, those biological weapons, viruses, whatever you want to call them, it's a whole cache of bullets in a room. But there's no guns, so you really can't use them. Well, you're going to use them if you put them in a gun, but they're still weapons. They sat there from 2005 until now, 17 years, frozen? Why? And don't think for a minute that some of the viruses that were frozen in 2005 and kept have not been taken out and worked on. Scientists can't help themselves. That's what they do. Bugs, bugs, bugs. If you remember Bang the Drum Slowly, the movie about the original AIDS epidemic in the United States. He works for the CDC, a couple of guys in the movie. He says, what do you do this for? Bugs, bugs, bugs. They're just scientist nerds, and they love this stuff. So don't think they weren't developing or augmenting or gain of functioning any of these viruses, because it's not true. And second of all, why aren't the old viruses now that are really no good and useless, why weren't they destroyed? Why are they still sitting there? Now they're afraid the Russians might get them. They've been sitting there for 17 years. Are you kidding me? The agreement required Ukraine to consolidate and store. Yeah, not destroy any dangerous pathogens that possess in central facilities, and required the country's Ministry of Health to inform the DOD if it had to move them temporarily due to emergency situations. It also allowed the U.S. and Ukraine to work together in a public health research. Yeah, research. Now, you're going to see a short video coming up, so don't turn off. Don't go off the episode here. That's going to really, really confirm what we think is going on. Like I said, this video is going to go a little long, but I think this is important. As early as 2020, Ukrainian officials called reports of American military biolabs within their borders fake news. Russia, on the other hand, has a history of violating international laws governing biological and chemical weapons, Psaki said. Well, I think technically that we did, along with China, in the Wuhan lab. Gain of function research was done. And then Fauci goes, well, no, technically, you don't know what you're talking about. It wasn't done. Well, they did was they changed the definition of gain of function and then turn around and did it. So let's cut through the crap. Studying the attempted poisoning of Kremlin critic, blah, 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 in Syria. They quell domestic rebellions. They use chemical weapons. And let's read through. It's exactly the kind of misinformation operation we've seen repeatedly from the Russians over the years in Ukraine and other countries around the world, which have been debunked conclusively, an example of the types of false pretexts that have been warning the Russians would invent. The United States is in full compliance with its obligations under the Chemical Weapons Convention, and the Biological Weapons Convention does not develop or possess such weapons anywhere. We'll say that's technically true. But it's not at the heart of the matter. It's not the reason why that these conventions and these treaties were signed. Are they getting around it technically through God knows how? It comes out the same. It's a lie of omission. Pentagon press secretary said that there were malarkey, classic Russian propaganda. We are not developing biological chemical weapons inside Ukraine. That is not happening. That's probably technically true. Here comes the video coming up. It's going to scare the hell out of you. Or the claim has generated renewed interest Tuesday when our Secretary of State for Political Affairs, Victoria Nuland, told the Senate Foreign Relations Committee that the U.S. was concerned about Russian troops seizing biological research facilities in Ukraine. We are not developing biological chemical weapons inside Ukraine, he said. We, as in the United States. So we have a proxy do it. When we have proxy wars in Soviets all over the world since the end of World War II, Americans, soldiers don't fight Russian soldiers. We have our proxies do it, and there's tons of examples of that. Well, let's take a look at this video. This could scare the bejesus out of you. It really should.
I only have a minute left. Let me ask you, does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned.
Biological research facilities, but they're not researching chemical or biological weapons. Tomato, schedule. This is lawyer-like talk. It means the same. And she doesn't look happy. Listen to the rest.
And Russian troops, Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces.
Now, here's the thing. If those were old Soviet, Russian, chemical weapons, viruses, whatever you want to call them, I'm not a lawyer, and they were going to consolidate them and store them without working on them to do research and other things like they did in the Wuhan lab, then what's their concern? Because the Soviets already have them. They're theirs. I'm sure they brought some of those viruses and whatever they're working on to Russia when the Soviet Union fell and left the rest. They didn't need them all. So if they're only getting back their own stuff, then what's the problem? Things they make you go home, which means they've been researched, tested, altered. I'll call it gain of function for lack of a better term. And that scares the hell out of them because they know they're dirty. Am I saying the U.S. is the only ones doing it? Of course not. But to stand there and say we are not directly involved in research is technically true, but the lie of omission. We're paying for it, and we're pushing it along. We have been since 2005.
Should they approach?
I'm sure you're aware that the Russian propaganda Groups are already putting out there all kinds of information about how they've uncovered a plot by the Ukrainians to release biological weapons in the country and with NATO's coordination. If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
Well, what she just described is the number one tactic of the Progressive Democrat Party, oddly enough. We blame our opposition, our opponents, in this case, Russia in the U.S. or Russia, Ukraine, for something that we're going to do or are doing. Isn't that interesting? Very interesting. Now, I've lost a lot of respect for Marco Rubio. He's an old neocon warmonger. I don't hate the guy, but, you know, he's been a little tarnished in my eyes. But the fact of the matter is, classic Russian disinformation campaign to accuse someone else of doing what you're doing or planning to do. Think about that. Stop this video and think about that, and think of the Progressive Democrat Party. Let's read on. And she said she's sure, there's any doubt in your mind the Russians would be behind it. There is no doubt, Senator, it's a clash in Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? The more things change, the more they stay the same. Why are they scared that the Russians are going to get their own old Soviet-style viruses, bacterias, whatever the heck they are, they have them in there that have been there since 2005? Isn't that interesting? Why are they afraid? Are there way more in there than there were originally? Have they been altered dramatically to make them incredibly dangerous? Things they make you go, We're going to have to see. Do I believe what China said and all that? No. But I don't believe Jen Psaki either, or the Pentagon spokesperson. We were involved either directly or indirectly with these chemical weapons in Ukraine. And just like Wuhan, because we didn't hand the money from us to them, and it went through several other hands before it got to them, doesn't mean we're clean either. We're going to have to see how this propaganda war works out between the Chinese, the Russians, the Ukrainians, and American mainstream media, all trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes. We'll see in the end. Maybe the books that will come out explaining what really happened will be long after I'm gone, but at least maybe the truth will eventually come out. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.